welcome and thank you for joining us today. Before we start with anything, I thought what we should do is just introduce ourselves and how you are related to Netta Kaplan. So I'm Dan and I'm her oldest son. And Ethan, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Ethan, and I'm married Alex. So, and I also inherited her family.
Who are your parents?
He wants to know your parents.
My parents are. Who's asking?
They're not really. They're not relevant
We'll take questions
to today.
To meet these people I've never met.
Yeah. So speak up so everyone can hear.
Alexandra, granddaughter.
Maya, granddaughter.
Jack, grandson.
Lana, great niece.
I'm Simon. I'm also a great nephew. This is my fiance.
Yeah, I'm related.
A great fiance.
I'm Ari, I'm a great nephew. I'm Adam, and I'm her grandson.
I'm Emily, and I'm her granddaughter.
I'm Leland. I'm with Emily.
I'm Debbie, I'm a niece.
You're not anybody?
He's my husband.
He counts.
He's a nephew-in-law.
I'm Jane, and I'm a niece.
I'm Les, and I'm married to Jane.
I'm Jackie, and I'm a niece. I'm Frank, and I'm married to Jackie.
I'm Laura. I'm married to him.
I'm Jeff. I'm a nephew. Nephew. Michael. I'm a nephew.
Jeremy, I'm a grand-nephew, a great-nephew, right? And this is Sammy, and he's a great-great.
He's greater.
Wow. He wins. He wins.
I'm Ann, and Netta was my mom's sister, and I'm a niece.
I'm Hal, I'm a nephew-in-law.
I'm Cheryl, and I guess I'm first cousin once removed by marriage, her marriage to Marvin Kaplan, right?
Gee, you made that complicated, Sherry.
I'm his daughter.
And this is my wife, Barbara. And I'm Marvin. I'm Marvin's first cousin, and he's the older brother I never had.
Joe, before we. Joe.
Yep. I'm Joe. I am Netta's nephew.
I'm Rivka, and I'm the daughter-in-law, married to Todd, who is the third son. Marvin Kaplan.
I'm Simonita, and I'm married to Rich. Daughter-in-law.
Ed, grandson.
Debbie, a niece.
But you were great. Everyone
That's great.
That's terrific.
You know, great can just go in front of it.
I'm George, and I'm a nephew-in-law.
I'm Joe, and I'm a great-nephew by way of Marvin.
I'm Peter, I'm Ruth's husband. We were married in this building about 2 years ago, an experience from which neither of us has recovered.
Speak for yourself.
But it was on Ruth's recommendation that we came to this building.
And I am Ruth. Currently his.
I'm Ruthie, I'm your relationship.
And I am Netta's niece. I was gonna say favorite niece.
Oh, that's obvious.
No, you can't.
But Netta look-alike. And I think I win the Netta look-alike contest.
That's later.
So,
You wanna do it again?
no, I'm okay. So I'm Todd, third son, as Rivka reminded us.
I'm Naomi, Netta's daughter.
First one.
Only daughter.
Favorite. Favorite daughter.
And I'm Rich, the number 2 son. They always did treat me like number 2.
Let's not do that here.
Well, thank you for sharing your introductions. Today we're going to just get a chance to do a lot of sharing. It's not terribly formal. We hope that in the course of that, you'll feel free to, after my siblings and I and that his grandchildren have shared some, that you will feel free to share some memories, recipes, fun things that you, jokes, fun things that you did with my mom. I'm going to start, and then we're going to have a little bit of inspired violin playing. We're going to hear by way of a video from my dad. Todd is hopefully got enough space on his phone to make a video that my dad can see. He'll mention it. He's very present with us today. We talked to him yesterday while we were driving around in front of Carthage Drive. And,
How's the stucco?
we inspected the stucco, and I would say it's pretty good. Pretty good. You did it with
You know the stucco story.
Yeah, but I'm going to save it for later. Since my mom died in June, almost 4 months ago, I've had a lot of time to think about her and her life, as I'm sure all of you have. So today is different than a funeral. I've had time to reflect, to share with my dad, my brothers and sister, and my children, and that's what today is for, sharing feelings and memories of Netta Kaplan. We hope that you will join us in sharing your own memories. As I said, my dad is here in spirit and in a video which we will play. And after we're done, we hope you'll stay and join us for brunch here. Today, I'd like to share the things that I keep coming back to when I think about my mom. For those of you who have lost a parent, I wonder if this happened to you. After my mom died, I started thinking about her in a different way. Less as mom and more as the unique person, human, individual that she was. Unencumbered perhaps by the baggage of 65 years we spent as mother-son and informed by the memories that others had shared of her, I've evolved to seeing the person beyond that mother-son relationship. She was special. She was unique. She was a life force. She was the captain of our ship, and we miss her terribly. One thing that everyone mentions about her is her vigor and her vitality. In the 89 years she spent on this earth, I don't think she wasted a single day. Everyone has their down days. I know I do. Days when you barely get out of bed or you sit mindlessly watching TV. My mom didn't do that kind of thing. All of us know that our time here is a precious gift, but few embrace that sentiment as much as our mom did. So much to do. So many museums, countries, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, friends to visit. Life's short and then you die. She would never say something like that, but that's how she lived every single day. Another thing, she didn't complain. When we were kids, we picked up and moved our entire house at least 5 times. To her, it wasn't a painful experience to complain about, but each time was an adventure to be embraced. She flew back and forth to Israel, who knows how many times, maybe 50 times. I hate it, and I've only done it 10. She flew in economy class until she finally upgraded about 2 or 3 years ago to business class. And she would always criticize the airline food, but it wasn't really a complaint, it was just part of the deal. When she arrived at a Kansas City train station in the early 60s after a day-plus trip with 3 small children, my dad wasn't there to pick her up because they had both confused which day she was arriving. She didn't complain. And remember, there were no cell phones to call him and say, "Where are you?" Later, it was just another adventure story without a hint of being a victim. And I've been thinking about her relationships with each of us. Not only my siblings, but all of us in this room. she had this ability to recognize and embrace our unique attributes and our choices. I saw this particularly with her grandchildren. Alexandra, Emily, Jack, Mira, Adam, Eduardo, Maya, your Safta not only loved you deeply, but she appreciated the unique individuals that you are. I know for me, that was a great gift for which I am so appreciative. And this applies to my siblings and I as well. My brothers and my sister and I are very different from each other. We have taken very different paths through life, and she encouraged each of our choices equally. Recently, when I told her I was jealous that I would never get a lifetime partnership as she and my dad had had, she responded I had had something different because I had been in 3 marriages. Not better or worse, just different. There was no judgment in there. Finally, the way that she left us was perfect. And to be honest, it gives me great comfort. That she had for 89 years, she was living every single day, swimming, traveling, cooking, doing yoga well into her 80s. I went with her when she was about 85 to a yoga class in Herzliya. Visiting New York and London, some of you saw her there in the past year. And then, in early June, she stopped. And for a week this June, we were given a chance to say goodbye, to tell her how much we loved her, and then she was gone. Thanks, Safka, Aunt Netta, Mom, for sharing your wonderful life with us. We love you always. Yeah, is that okay? All right. The three of you and then Dan, right? Okay. Sorry.
I'm gonna try and see how many technological glitches I can work into. Well, I just had a few words I'd like to say about my mom. Starting out with that old line, he's got a face only a mother could love. Not sure how that connects, but, but I guess what I want to say about my mom is that, and it's probably true, generally true of all mothers, maybe dads too, is that what makes them the foundations of our lives, makes us indebted to them when they're here, feel wounded when they're gone, is that they give us the kind of love and appreciation that simply sustains us. I know this is true of my mother. And Jane was telling me that back when I was a mere baby, she remembers being dumbfounded by one of my mom's glowing remarks. My mom would say, "Oh gosh, would you look at what Richie's doing here?" And I was just a baby, right? You know, there I was. Jane looked over and said, well, he's playing with his potatoes or maybe with spaghetti or something, like making a tremendous mess. And my mom said, "I think I see an artist there." And Jane was saying, I wondered how could anyone except perhaps a loving mother, think there was anything of artistic merit there. And still today, whenever I do most anything, you know, write a blog post, play a jig on my harmonica, do a piece of sculpture, even do some kind of abstruse sociological research, and I want to show off my accomplishments, my mind always immediately goes, even now, oh, where's my mom? Where's the woman where's my mother that I can show it to? And then she would always be there waiting with perhaps unfounded appreciation. So I always think of her, and I always thank her for that sustaining force.
So I was thinking of number 3, but actually it's supposed to be a girl, so that's why we have 4th.
Lucky for us.
Yeah, lucky for us, exactly. So I think that it's been pretty amazing to have, you know, all these different experiences. So we had a memorial service in Israel that I was able to go to, and Naomi and Maya and Mira and my dad. And then I had a Shloshim service at my synagogue when I came back. And then this, and it's really, as Dan said, it's really allowed me to really reflect and figure out, well, what's the meaning of this? And I want to really thank Ethan for bringing my mom's violin to life, because if you, I don't know if you listen to music the way I listen to that piece, but it really felt like my mom's life. There was just such vibrancy, and there was such depth and tones, and it was just like she was speaking to us through this violin that was so dear to her. And in fact, she, of course, as you may know, she played violin basically to the end. The orchestra, when we were so privileged to go to the orchestra, when I was there, and they had the concert she'd been preparing for, and the whole orchestra had a moment of silence and remembered her, and it was just very, very moving. She did admit that she faked sometimes at the end, so that she wouldn't destroy their music. So she'd be sitting there, and she'd say, like, "I'm not really playing, but I'm having a good time." So she did know some of her limitations, but that's actually the anomaly. She never knew her limitations. She swam 2 days before she ended up in the hospital. She, as Dan, you'll hear all of us will say, that she lived life to the fullest. And I think that was kind of, if there was one central message that she gave us, it was like live life to the fullest, but obviously have meaning. and and she let, as kind of Dan intimated, we all had nonlinear paths, or especially some of us more wandering than others, and she was always extremely supportive of whatever you're doing. I'm sure that's true of all you grandchildren as well. That she, whatever you're doing, it's great, and supportive, and felt the love. And so the meaning, though, is really important. So we had, and I think, my dad was here, but if he was here, he'd admit this, that she was the driving force in terms of so much consciousness about what's going on in the world. So they both dragged us to many marches, but I remember my mom, honestly more my dad, like going to civil rights marches. She was a founder of the preschool, the co-op preschool that some of us went to, that I got to go to early because I just was following my brothers. And they just said, okay, he can go even though he's not yet 3. And so she was a founding person on that co-op preschool in Topeka. And then the North Avondale Neighborhood Association, which was trying to foster black-Jewish relations, black-white relations in Cincinnati. And vigils in Cincinnati when it was so much tension around black. We moved into a neighborhood that the whites were fleeing. So it was everything in our life had was not just about living life, but having meaning to life and that purpose, and thinking about that so much. And of course, lately I've been thinking about all the foods that she loves. So my mom, I've eaten a jelly donut recently, which I haven't eaten in years. Maple walnut ice cream. I did not get to dim sum because there's nothing there I could eat. But if I ate all that stuff, I would eat lots of dim sum. And at my congregation, I said we're having too much food in my mom's honor. So hopefully we're having too much food today. And we got potato chips as well because that's one of her favorites. Yeah. So yeah, she. In fact, Rivka famously, I'm stealing your line probably, said the first thing to Rivka was, "Do you like to eat?" So, living life fullest, eating the fullest, always experimenting. We were omnivores as kids, so she'd always come up to us and open your mouth and stick in like a chocolate-covered grasshopper or something, and just like, oh, hey, or you don't remember that? How about, oysters or all sorts of things.
I remember that.
So she really, really was life force and really central to all of our lives. I think I really will miss. I do miss a lot about her, about being able to reach out and, I think we've kind of lost the family historian in some ways. Like I just thought recently, yesterday about, we were doing this little drive around Rochester and it's like, oh my gosh, my dad did remember some things, but he won't remember so much. And he does not remember so much, but she remembered everything.
But she wrote it down.
And she did write down, we
wrote a lot.
actually read things that she wrote as we were driving around yesterday, and very detailed. She was much loved. I just want to give one anecdote from yesterday. We arrived at this house, which street was it? Pembroke. And in the backyard of the next door neighbor is this older woman, so we go up to her and say, hey, just want to let you know we're out here, but because we're remembering our mom who lived here
75 years ago.
75 years ago. And she said, oh yeah, I remember her. And it's pretty remarkable, but it was true because she was here, this next door neighbor was there, and she remembered the love that my mom, kind of, in some ways was the only child as the youngest, so distant from the older siblings, that her dad, Jack, made these beautiful clothes for her. And the next door neighbor, who was a little bit younger, got them as hand-me-downs. And she was just loved these wonderful, beautifully tailored clothes from our grandfather, Jack, and mine. And of course she remembered Florence and Lester. And in in Jack and Seal, but it was just amazing. And she said, aha, and I should remember this especially. She said, my mom was really smart. Now, this is a memory of a little kid looking up at a big kid, but also recognized, of course, we know her mom was really smart, very accomplished speech pathologist and chemist, and so many, as Dan kind of said, we moved so many times, and she kind of reinvented herself so many times, and just always was coming out with another facet of herself. So it's just great to remember her and appreciate you all coming.
Okay. I'm gonna use this.
Do you mind coming closer so Dad can hear you?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you mind coming closer so Dad can hear you?
Thanks. I'll write it down.
Lower, beautiful.
Okay, I just wanted to say a couple words about the ceremony we had in Israel. It was very nice. It was quite moving. People spoke about my mom's vitality, her energy, but one other thing that they spoke about was that she was real. She was a real friend. She was very interested in what you had to say, genuinely interested and concerned, and always there for you. I feel quite lucky to have had my mom as my mom. We had a very close relationship. Her love and support were always there, and I always felt quite free to express myself. She was an active mother. She spent time with all of us. We went on outings together, cooked together, played games together, shopped together, traveled together. She was there. During my childhood, there was a period, one of the things that I remember is when I was the only one home for lunch, she would make a point to come home for lunch, and every day. And once a week, we would go out and eat in one of the burger joints, and that was something that was very special to me, and I try to do this with my no matter what, she was there and wanted to be a part of whatever was going on, whether it be a discussion or an activity. She was a good role model, a person who stood up for what she believed in as a woman, again, standing up for her right to strive for or achieve what she wanted, and as a mother who gave her all to us. She helped me become a good mother, as well as a good educator, not only though through her involvement and connection with me, but also through the psychology, which I learned from her and my father, helping me understand dynamics of people, interactions between people. She had very strong convictions about how to raise her children, and this I take with me. Her relationship with all of us was very important to her, and she made sure she had one with each one of us, and that included all her children and her grandchildren. And she made sure we knew that we were all loved and respected and appreciated for who we were. She made it clear that she had no favorites. She would say, "You're my favorite daughter," and "You're my favorite third child," and "You're my favorite eldest grandchild." Everyone was equally loved, and she was very important, and that's important to me. But I think this mindset is very important, that each and every one of us knows that he or she was loved and appreciated equally, and I can feel how this had affected all of our relationships towards each other. Her connection with her friends and family was important, and she knew how to connect. My mom was special in many ways for many people, and I feel very fortunate to have had her.
Now direct from